Okay, so I promised some bonus footage that I completely forgot to record and attach to the end of the last video we made. If you haven't seen that, feel free to go back and check that out. But in this video, I think for greater clarification, I believe again there's some misunderstandings about what has occurred in the past or even more recently with this decarburization issue. And I just wanted to explain that so people understand we're not out here willy-nilly wasting things or throwing away parts that look at us, wrong, or we're only throwing away things that are not functional or are not going to be able to be made up to a standard that I can get behind. Beyond that, I hate waste. I absolutely hate it. I noticed somebody had said the other day that we're chasing unobtainable standards, and for a while that felt true. But since we've taken over the manufacturing, I can tell you on the machining and manufacturing side on our aspect, we're meeting our goals, we're meeting our standards, and now we're just getting nitpicky about the incoming materials and things that are outside of here to make sure that we have a good workflow and consistent ability to produce the product at the level that we're looking for. So if you see us changing directions or doing something, it's just about making that product reliably in a way that makes sense to us financially here. To get here, we did a lot of things that didn't make any financial sense because we could see where we were going, and we knew for most people we're just gonna have to show you. People oftentimes get hung up on the blame aspect of this journey, and we don't get to any productive conclusions after that. I don't like what I'm doing right now, but I believe in it, and I know that we make a really nice product. So we're going to keep doing that, whether I'm personally happy or not, because we are onto something and we're creating something that has genuine value in the knife market. So jumping right into it here, we're going to talk about the most recent thing, which was the decarburization or decarbonization, which plainly is just, again, I think, in my opinion, due to poorly published data. These parts were mishandled at heat treat. We were getting material strain that was causing part warpage at heat treat. They don't like that because they include straightening as part of their service of heat treat. So based on their understanding of the material at the time, they were doing a stress relieving process that was subsequently causing the carbon to leave the alloy during that process. So what happens there is where you see all this black is leftover carbon that has gotten pulled out of the material surface. So there are just random areas of these parts that do not have the primary hardening element in the blade anymore. So beyond them not being up to my standard, there are practical reasons we had to change these. Trying to maintain anything close to what we were originally going to do with these resulted in parts that were finished that looked like they were rusted and then sandblasted and retumbled. They did not look nice. So it's not that I didn't want to field these, it's just they were not appropriate as they were. So you can see where we, with the 5.1, so just for reference, this is how the parts should look when they come back from heat treat. Nice and clean, an even straw color. Really nice, clean looking heat treat versus what happened for the first couple of months because nobody understood what was occurring with the stress relieving as it was being done. So they've got that figured out and we've moved past it, but this also brought up some issues that I just wanted to show. Nobody can explain to me what these are, and they're pretty far down into the sheet. So when I see things like this, I don't know if the nitrogen is trying to come out of the alloy or if we just weren't up to full density in the hip state of this material before it was rolled down into final sheets. I don't know. So without knowing that, I did hold on to these and I'm scrapping these out. I'm probably going to beat them up and see if I can break them later, just so that I have information for moving forward. But right now, yeah, I'm totally not going to let that out the door, because if you're a collector, you're not going to like seeing that. If you're a user, I don't know if that's going to cause a compromised structure of the knife. So I don't want to set you guys up for failure, even if it hurts sometimes. And like I said, I don't push this stuff out the door because I don't know if that's going to fail on you. And I've seen too much in the past. Our knives get around when I try and share blanks with people. And I don't know where they're going to go through their life cycle. So just for my peace of mind, I withhold these things, and we're making decisions here based on information and learning as we go. to minimize this. So it's not, I don't just keep running headlong into issue after issue, not learning anything. We learned a lot from this. I think the industry in general learned a lot from this. I think the heat treat has improved from it, and handling standards across the industry have improved based on us information sharing and allowing other people to talk quietly who might not want to talk about this publicly. It's not an easy thing to talk about because it's against my self-interest, but I like to be transparent and show you just some of the things that happen. It's not all fun marketing things all the time and haha stuff. We are in manufacturing and we're making something, and there's struggles. So they're not excuses. I just like to explain and bring you guys in here. To all these small makers and companies out there, thanks for reaching out and just sharing your thoughts on our experiences. And I'm glad that it is helping some of you out there. That means a lot to me. I don't want other people to run these same struggles. But similarly, looking back here, I'm still holding on to these because I plan on having these annealed and reheat treated, and we're going to do something with them. But these were GSO 3.5 blades that the previous company we'd been working with, Millet Knives. They had ran these through their table grinding process, and they got warped terribly. And they were so tapered under the stress of that surface grinder that even as I tried to come back through and fix these, they weren't cleaning up in a way that made sense. So I held on to a lot of these, and it's my intention here, we're gonna re-anneal these and all of these to make some little, I think some Scandi little bushcrafty 3.5s out of these. It'll be a very limited run, but so that's what happened with that pile. This pile, things were always in sort of a rush when we were working with the other company. So when we were making the fixture for the 3.5, we realized we had to remake the fixture because when we'd come into probe to make sure our fixture location, everything was right, in the first op fixture location, the probe arm was hitting the back of the rough water jetted parts, which was throwing our program off. So all of these on our first operation are about 9 or 10 thousandths out of nominal. So they couldn't quickly be made into something else. So we held on to all of this for later. And now that we're back here close to Peter's heat treat, we've come up with solutions for this. So we're gonna start, as I have time in the evenings here, just a couple minutes a day, just start messing with some of these parts. And we're gonna turn them into something beautiful and new because I hate loss. These materials were good, it was just a bad approach at the time. And since we've completely taken over manufacturing, this was something we could learn from, and knowing that we're not gonna make these same mistakes. Sorry, I left that plate on top of there, shouldn't have. So looking at that, that's another instance. But going the whole way back here to the Crew Forge V, what we learned here is I don't want a boutique hot roller company rolling a carbon steel for us. Early on, I was freaking out because we have blanks that, these are pinned together to where the handles lined up pretty well, but because of the things that can happen with this particular hot rolling process from this company, I think there's some heating and cooling, potentially hitting some subcritical temperatures while we're still working the material. That put permanent stress in these sheets. So I know moving forward, if I want to mess with a carbon steel or something, I'm going to work with a manufacturer of those materials that does a lot of that. Talking to Peter's heat treat, this isn't normal for a carbon steel. So having that as a point of information, point of learning, we have contact information from Udahome and some different companies that produce very high quality versions of these materials, so that we can maybe reapproach some of this more, some entry level options where there's still a very high quality, but it gets you, a taste of what Survive can do without having to go to Cabela's or something, for something more off the shelf. Even with 1095 or some of these other materials, I know we can do a better job and offer more value, even in that arena. It's been a long climb, but we've learned something at every step. And the only thing that we've had along this journey that's been common is delays, but it's never been for the same reason. We've always learned from it And we've kept pressing forward to continue being good on our word and to continue to develop better processes and just do the best job possible. When you're trying to push into uncharted territory, it's never going to be smooth and easy. If it is, it's usually not worth doing. So I think that was greater clarification on some of these things. It doesn't all just get thrown away. If I think at all we can do something with it, we're gonna.
We even moved it across the country.
Yeah, just to optimize the business. And we brought all this with us because we're not just going to toss it out willy-nilly if we can do something with it. It's an egregious waste of materials and time if we don't do something with it. So I'll give you a sneak preview. We found a new technology. So the heat treat was really good on these. They just warped really badly. But what we found is we cut all of our parts out, usually in one direction out of a sheet. So what we found here is we have a lot of parts that do group similarly. They're just not what the original profile was. So if I put this up here, it's not going to line up with this profile at all. But within these parts, this all just takes time. It's really hard to deal with these things while you are knee deep in production and getting caught up and taking over manufacturing. There's only so many hours in a day, but I stay up and try to do as much as possible each day so that we can stay up with production, get ahead, but then still answer questions and be learning for tomorrow. So here, we've got one that's a little out, but most of these line up pretty well. There was some warpage, but this tells me, again, this reaffirms my belief that this was material strain intrinsic to the hot rolling of the material, because every one of these parts warped very similarly, and then the amount of deviation is something I would more expect from a carbon steel. There's a little more bowing in it because there's lower alloy and it does have a chance to move a little bit, but this isn't bad, and we could work with this in our small production environment here pretty easily. So what we're gonna do is there's a technology out there we're going to try out. I don't want to spoil it yet, but we're going to try and pull all these down just a few thou to make a new profile and then find out what our largest deviation is getting out here into the blade and create a new program to be able to pull all of this into something that is still a viable, nice looking knife and just kind of normalize the batch through a technology that we found. So I really hope that that's something viable for our application and it's cost effective, because I would love to not lose 400 of these daggone knives. So that's what's going on. So just know, we're not out just setting effort on fire. We've been very frugal along this whole thing. It has been a lot of loss to absorb as we've learned from other companies and some of their mistakes. We help finance all that, so it was nice to be able to sit there and learn from these other companies along our journey, so that when it did inevitably go here, we had a lot of foundation to build a new company on. So yeah, we're back in Gettysburg. Things are going really well. We're improving communication with everybody. We are getting caught up, and we are even finding solutions for some of this, what was yesterday's loss, that I think is gonna, again, make a better tomorrow. So yeah, if you have any other questions or somebody would like more clarification on anything, I have the information. It's just the squirrels sometimes don't let it all out in a way that I would like or is most ideal, but it's all in there. So if you have a more direct question, just ask. I am going to throw something out here. Somebody asked in a comment a while ago, can't you just shell mill these rather than surface grind them? You can do that. It's just harder to get the same parallelism and throughput and finishes as on the Blanchard grinder. So I don't know if the person who asked that question is going to see that answer, but yes, you could shell mill parts in a set of jaws and a vise in the mill. It's just there's stresses that you're putting with those vise jaws, so there's considerations there too. And since we've gotten so many good processes worked out now with our Blanchard grinder, we're getting really good results. It's just a lot more efficient and quick to do that on the Blanchard grinder. So anyway, hope all this was informational to whoever's still watching this, but thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you again soon. Have a great day.